about this and gave an answer. Of course, we're in regular touch at a range of levels with members of Congress about a range of issues, including our relationship with China and including an issue like this that there's been a lot of reporting and interest in. But beyond that, I don't have an update, given he just answered the question himself.
And then sort of following up on the question about the electric car tax credits, but kind of more broadly, maybe you can talk to whether there's been any concern from the White House heading into these meetings today, whether the president's big push to make things in America and buy American in the long term could be right now making it harder to get Mexico and Canada on board to help with some of the supply chain issues.
Well, our view is that we have a lot we can work with, a lot of work we can do, I should say, with the Canadians on addressing supply chain issues, something that's in our mutual interest, and there's mutual benefit in doing that. We've done a lot of work on this end. We certainly know that the ability for goods to move effectively around, connecting infrastructure, making sure it's efficient, even at a time where the purchasing of goods is increased massively around the world, here, Canada, everywhere around the world. That's in our mutual interest. I would say, just to go back to what I said in response to Amar's question, I mean, the electric vehicles component of the package is something the president is personally very excited about, because he believes it's an industry of the future, an industry that can help create good paying union jobs, and it will help consumers, it will help incentivize the purchasing of electric vehicles and the driving of electric vehicles, something that's good for our climate. But all diplomatic relationships have areas where there might be tough topics to discuss, where people have concerns they raise. That's the purpose of these in-person meetings.
It doesn't sound like he's interested in negotiating on that one, and maybe letting there be a Canadian sort of carve out for tax credits for Canadian. As he said, they're going to discuss it, and we'll see what they discuss, and we'll give you guys a readout. But I think in response to Amar's question, I was just answering how we view it, and of course reiterating the president's excitement about this component of his package. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. While he's meeting with the Mexican president today, do you expect them to come to an agreement on returning to the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy?
I don't believe that's intended to be a big topic at this meeting.
Okay, so you don't think they'll come to an agreement on that today?
I think it was previewed as not a major topic of discussion, so I wouldn't anticipate that.
Okay, and the House could vote as soon as tonight to advance the Build Back Better bill for the president. He has touted this, of course, as he did yesterday in Michigan, as a big boost for the middle class. Is he comfortable where the current provisions stand for these state and local tax deductions, given it would be a pretty significant tax break for the wealthy?
Well, let me start by first, obviously wasn't what he proposed in his initial package, as you know, but just to come back to that. The president also, though, it's been conveyed to him by leaders in the House and Senate that this needs to be included in order for this legislation to move forward. And he certainly understands that and takes these legislators who've been doing this a long time very effectively at their word. But even as we look at the content of it, it's a long-term sustainable reform, in our view, that doesn't add at all to the deficit over the decade. And over that period, it will mean that millionaires and billionaires actually pay more than they would otherwise. It would raise the cap to $72,500, fully paying for itself across the decade. It's a sustainable solution in our view. That means those with lower incomes would be able to fully write off their state and local taxes. So it is a component that wasn't initially proposed. This is a part of compromise. It's not something that would add to the deficit as it is concluded in the package, and certainly we're comfortable with it moving forward.
You are comfortable with it moving forward?
Again, this is not what we proposed, but this is compromise. It's in the package. I just wanted to give you a sense of where it stood.
Does the president support the Senate adding an income threshold to that?
I'm not going to parse different components that are being discussed as we're working to finalize it. The president, again, this is a part of the bill that has been proposed that is important to key members, as you all know. That's why it's in the package. The president's excitement about this is not about the SALT deduction. It's about the other key components of the package, and that's why we're continuing to press for it to move forward. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. In regards to the supply chains, I wanted to ask, how serious is the administration considering the option of nearshoring, creating incentives to encourage some manufacturing to move from China to Mexico, for example? So far, the focus has been on, as she was saying earlier, Buy American policies. Is nearshoring one of the things the administration is taking seriously?
I'd have to talk to our economic team of whether that is one of the top areas or top policies they're looking at. As you know, we're looking at a range of ways we can continue to build on the progress that, in our view, we've made already to date. That includes making sure we're implementing, as it relates to the infrastructure bill, the ports piece on the early end of that, because we know that's a key component of making sure goods are moving effectively around the country. But I will ask them if that's something that is under consideration.
On another, could you respond to Senator Rubio's decision to place a hold on Biden's nominee for the ambassador to China? Obviously a key position. Rubio's concerns are that Nicholas Burns has some business relationships in China.
Well, I would first say that anyone who knows Nick Burns' background knows that he is eminently qualified for this position. He's somebody who could effectively do the job from the first day he is serving in it, and he is somebody also. This is a country where we vitally need an ambassador at a time where we have a lot of business engagement and follow-up work to be done. So we are certainly eager to see his nomination move forward. Go ahead.
Can I ask you, forgive me for an update on Fed timing? Is it still?
You don't have to apologize. It's okay. It's an important topic.
The Canadians are in the building. I have to apologize.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Sick burn. You as one.
Built into the DNA.
Yes, built into the DNA.
Next is Thanksgiving as well for the chair. Still?
It still remains, as Chris said yesterday, that he intends to make a decision in advance of Thanksgiving, and hopefully all of you financial reporters can rest easily with your turkey and mashed potatoes or whatever you like to eat, that you don't have to be chasing it by then.
Is that an announcement that we can expect to be for the other open positions, or is it just the chair that he's going to be at this time?
I don't have an update beyond that, but I think you can certainly expect the nominee for that he will make a decision and will have more to say before Thanksgiving on the chair.
And on the SPR, you discussed with President Xi the notion of jointly releasing reserves. Can you say whether you've had discussions with other countries about whether the U.S. would consider a joint release of oil reserves?
So the president, we have national security members of the national security team, I should say, have discussed with a range of countries, including China, as was noted in the readout, the need to meet the supply demands out there over the longer term as well. I don't have an update. I know you weren't exactly asking about China, but about that. But that is an ongoing conversation and one we're having with a number of partners.
Can you list any of those countries?
I don't have additional details. I will see if there's more we can provide.
Not in a quiz way, but
Right. Whatever you say, country, and I'll wink or not. I don't know.
And finally, reconciliation, debt limit. Schumer and McConnell are meeting on that today. Does the White House think reconciliation is the best path forward, or do you prefer another path on raising the debt limit after Secretary Yellen's timing that she provided earlier this week?
Yes, and for others who didn't see it or may not watch it as closely, Secretary Yellen put another update letter out there giving kind of a rough timeline of around December 15th of when we would have more questions about whether we could pay our bills at that point. Our view is that it has been done 81 times, if I'm getting my math correctly, through regular order. We saw that happen a few weeks ago. That is certainly our preferred path. We think there's no reason to fool around with the faith and credit of the United States, and that's certainly what we're going to continue to press forward on. Go ahead.
Back on EV tax credits, it's not just the Canadians that are upset. Tesla is upset. Toyota is upset because the bill, as it's written in the House, would give a leg up to the companies that happen to have contracts with the UAW. How committed is the president to keeping that provision in the bill?
The president is pretty committed to the bill providing good-paying union jobs.
The president seemed to say this morning, I think I heard him say, that he would take questions after he meets with the leaders today. Do you know more what we can expect in that regard?
Well, he just took questions a little bit ago, so we'll see what the end of today looks like, and if the president wants to take questions, that's certainly his right to take questions.
Should we expect a press conference tonight or tomorrow?
I would not expect, no, but you can take questions, you can ask questions in any format, right? I don't think you need a formal embroidered chair for it, I don't think.
We would like a press conference.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. On immigration, several Democratic lawmakers, outside groups, administration officials have told us they don't think that the administration has a cohesive immigration policy, and that's contributed to the higher numbers, the record numbers that we're seeing at the border. Do you think the administration has a cohesive immigration policy, and how would you characterize it?
We do. We have a a bill that the president proposed and put forward on his first day in office. We believe there not only needs to be a more fair system, a humane system, but we believe there needs to be a more effective asylum processing. We believe there needs to be smarter border security investment, and we believe that there needs to be more done to address the root causes. That is all a part of the president's proposed legislation, and we are eager to work with anyone in the House or Senate, Democrat or Republican, who wants to work with us on moving forward on long overdue immigration reform.
In the meantime, the legislation is stalled in Congress. In the meantime, do you think there's a cohesive strategy that the White House is implementing based on just executive actions and what you guys do at the border in trying to control the numbers?
Well, again, I would note that those who may be critical could be a part of the solution in working together to address what we know is a often cyclical challenge of people coming, larger numbers of people coming to the border. Yes, increases more recently, but we've seen it in the past as well. And as we see challenges in processing at the border, that is not going to be solved with a short-term solution. We need a longer-term solution. So I would note that we have seen progress as we look at numbers over the course of time, month by month, but we need a longer-term legislation, comprehensive reform put in place, and we welcome the interest of anyone to work with us on that.
Plan to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos?
I don't have any travel or anything to preview for early next year. It now feels like it's coming soon, even though I long felt like it was long ago. So no plans to preview, but if there's anything more, we're happy to update you all on that. Go ahead.
Hi, Jen. What is the president's reaction to the DHS Inspector General's decision not to investigate the horseback patrol incident in Del Rio? There's still an inquiry by the Office of Professional Responsibility, but there's not an announced timeline for its completion. The president in September said there would be consequences. Secretary Mayorkas said an investigation would turn around in a week. Were the president and secretary too hasty in those remarks?
I know the secretary spoke to this, I think, yesterday, and I would just point you to his comments. I don't have an additional comment from here. Go ahead. Jonathan, you're in a different spot. I'm adjusting.
Different viewpoint. Thank you. Two questions for you. Does the White House have any reaction to today? The governor of Oklahoma called off the execution of a death row inmate, a Julius Jones, just hours before he was to be killed. It's a case that attracted a lot of attention from activists, students in the state. Mr. Jones instead will be given he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Well, the president has made clear over time that he has grave concerns about whether capital punishment as currently implemented is consistent with the values that are fundamental to our sense of justice and fairness. And certainly as looking at a case like this, you reflect, and I think he and we all reflected on his point of view or his view and his policy position in that regard. And I'd note for us on a federal level, the Attorney General has halted executions at the federal level. We are in the process of conducting an important review of the federal death penalty, and the president believes that is an important step forward. But this, as you know, was a state level sentence. The action needed to be taken on the state level, and so there wasn't a real role that the federal government could officially play in that regard. But certainly the president's grave concerns about the death penalty and the implementation of that are, I think were reflected in how he viewed this case.
Okay. And another matter, just picking up the thread on ambassadors.
Yeah.
There's some growing calls among some Democrats for Senate Majority Leader Schumer to do things, quote, the hard way, and perhaps keep the Senate in nights, weekends, whatever it might be, to get some of these these ambassador nominees confirmed. Does the White House endorse that position? What more do you guys want to see about getting more ambassadors put in place, so very few have been to this point?
Well, one thing that could happen, if, just to go kind of full nerd Senate process here, is that a lot of these nominees, as you've seen not everyone, but many of these nominees, ambassadorial nominees, eminently qualified nominees, end up passing with a vast majority vote. I mean, Democrats and Republicans. And they could just be voted through or passed through unanimous consent. You don't need to use all the hours on the floor, right, to have the process proceed where there's hours of debate. There have been delays and holds, as you know, from a variety of individuals. Senator Cruz is one of them. So that has been a challenge as well. But certainly we believe that it is far past time to move forward with these nominees, that we are hindered by not having people and ambassadors in places around the world at a time. And I think if you haven't all seen the statement by former Secretary Gates, he had a pretty strong, compelling statement out there about the importance of moving forward with some of these nominees. We're at almost December in the administration. So I would just say that's how we broadly view it. But it is true also that Leader Schumer is trying to move forward quite a bit on the legislative agenda. He has effectively and efficiently done that to date. And one of the challenges here, the big challenge that I don't think should be undervalued or underreported, is the insistence on lengthy processes that is really not necessary in every case. Go ahead.
Some states have already expanded booster shot eligibility to all adults. Does the White House believe that should be done nationwide? Does the president think that all adults should be getting their booster shots now?
Well, there's a process that is underway, as you know, and we've said from back several months ago that once the FDA and the CDC approved boosters for individuals over a certain age, or once it goes through the process to approve it, we'd be ready with the supply, and we'll be ready with the supply. But science first, data first, so we'll wait for the process to proceed.
I'm concerned about the rising numbers going into the holiday season, into the winter. We're seeing numbers tick off across the country right now. What are the White House's plans to deal with that?
Well, we're continuing to implement vaccination programs, of course, across the country. We have been encouraged by some of the numbers we've seen in terms of the uptick of people who are eligible, who are getting their booster shots. About 30 million Americans have done that to date. Obviously, more than that are eligible. So we'd like to see more people getting booster shots who are eligible to get that extra protection against COVID-19 now, especially going into the holiday season. We know now that kids age 5 to 11 are eligible, that if you get your vaccine shot, you get your first shot now, your kids will be protected by the holiday season. So we're continuing to press and remind people that this is a big travel time of year, a big crowd time of year. Winter, obviously, colder weather, more people inside, and we are upping our outreach to emphasize that. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks. Yesterday, Congress passed a bill to give the Congressional Medal of Honor to the 13 service members who were killed in the attack at the Kabul airport. Some of those families were critical at the time of the withdrawal and the president's efforts to honor their loved ones. Mm-hmm. When will he sign that legislation, and is this something where he would host something at the White House to award those medals to the families?
Well, first let me say that the president doesn't look at the loss they had or the grief that these families endured through the political prism. And some of them were critical. They have every right to speak publicly about their points of view. That continues to be his viewpoint. In terms of the status of it, I just have to check with our legislative team on what that looks like. I'm happy to do that.
Do a ceremony at the White House?
I don't know what it looks like yet because I have to check on the status. As you know, he met many of these families back in August following what I would still say was one of the worst days of his presidency, and conveyed to them that he would be open to staying in touch if that was appealing to them. And everybody deals with and copes with grief, the loss of a loved one in different ways. He remains open to that, but I don't have any updates beyond that.
Just do one quick one on paid leave. There's reportedly an effort underway by some Democrats to start working on a separate paid leave proposal out of the Build Back Better plan that could have bipartisan support. Is this something that the president has endorsed as a strategy, given that the House has not even voted yet on the Build Back Better, and where it goes in the Senate then?
Well, the president wants paid leave to be in the final package, and of course it is in the House package and the House bill that will be voted on soon. But without prejudging the outcome here, we also know that it needs to have support in the Senate in order to move forward, and that has been challenging to date. But the president is committed to getting this done, and without getting involved in the specific legislative tactics of it, which I don't think he's quite engaged with on this topic at this point, he wants to get paid leave done. He thinks it's long overdue, and he's committed to getting it done. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Yesterday, oil and gas companies bid nearly $190 million for drilling rigs on federal oil reserve in the Gulf of Mexico. This comes just after President Biden was at COP26 in the United Kingdom. Given that these leases are going to last well past 2030, does this current round undermine at all Biden's pledge to reduce greenhouse gas emissions?
I think I may have spoken to this the other day, and I think there's a legal court case around this on the implementation or the allowing of these oil leases to move forward. But I would say, so I would refer you to those comments. Go ahead, Katie.
Talking about a summit where migration is one of the major issues without bringing up a policy like remain in Mexico, where does the White House think the proper forum for that is if it's not one like this?
Well, as you know, there's legal ramifications around this and legal discussions around this. So I think that's part of the reason it hasn't been intended to be a major focus of discussion, but certainly migration will be, as will every steps that can be taken to reduce the number of people who are coming to the border, coming from Central America through Mexico